All right. So it's been I want to say a week now since I last did my stream. And it's funny because in the last live stream I still had I still was sick, right? Believe it or not though, I still have not got rid of the cold that I have. So somehow I still have that. I've had that for like 2 weeks now. So that's not good, but hey, at least it's better than what it was, for lack of better words. Um so I don't have a particular subject to speak on tonight. I'm only planning to go live for I want to say an hour because that's all I have time for tonight is an hour. Um you know, I'm planning on doing a second part to a recent stream I did. I believe I entitled it, open challenge to free grace or something along them lines. And I've been saying I was going to do like a second part to it. And, for whatever reason, I had to put it off, of course, because I've been sick. And, it is what it is. So eventually I'll get around to doing that, um, you know, when I get the chance to, which, won't be tonight. But, that's something we got to look forward to in the future. Hey, how you doing, Chris? Thanks for stopping by. Um, so yeah, I had to reschedule that. I know some people planning on tuning, were planning to tune in on that. Excuse me. But I do apologize for having to, set that up for another time. But it is what it is. Some people ask me, why have conversations with the free grace community, and my answer to that question would be the reason why we time to time have conversations with those people is because people can listen to the conversation from both sides of the perspective and they can learn from it, right? And sometimes it's good just to hear the views of the opposing side, so you can learn how to reason with one another, right? And I have to say, now that I've been going after the free grace community, or as I call them, the free grease community, right? They're free grease for that fire, inside joke. But I've been coming after the free grace community for a year now, right? I mean, of course, I've known about these guys longer than that, but I was going after, you know, bigger fish to fry, so I stepped back to go after a free grace now. Hey, now is the time for their spot in that spotlight, right? It's their time to shine. So now I've been going after them for a good year now, and I certainly continue. I should say I certainly will continue to do so. I don't. There's no stopping in sight. Which, of course, any of these other false religions and philosophies, we're still going to go after that as well. But right now, if you ask me, like, what is one of the most critical doctrines to go after, I would say right now it's the free gracers are like the the one group that needs to be exposed the most, right? Hey, we already, you know, the Green Apple himself, Perry McGee. I'll use that because he doesn't like his full name on there. That that sourpuss, that crybaby. But that coon, that numbskull Perry. That dude's already been tried, died, and laid to the side. Countless times now. So really, I don't plan on having any other interactions with that character. I mean, I'm sure maybe once in the future we might cross paths, possibly. Um, but there's nothing planned, right? Like there's no conversations planned, right? As far as I know, and as far as he knows, the last conversation we had was on Nick's channel, right? That's the last conversation that we're probably going to ever have. But again, I can't say that for a fact. But it could be the case, right? We don't have any other conversations planned. I mean, that was basically the nail in the coffin, right? I mean, there's really nowhere else that we could take the conversation beyond that point. I mean, hey, look, you know, that was a spiritual cremation that everybody witnessed on Signs and Wonders channel when me and Perry had that conversation. Right? I mean, there's nothing the dude can come back from that. The dude is buried alive at this point. There's nothing the dude could do or say to come back, from that knockout, that spiritual KO that he got served. All right, so that dude's basically out of the occasion at this point, right? That dude, shit, he's null and void at this point, right? So what I was gonna say was, after interacting with the Fruit Race community for a year or so, I think that like the most respectful person in the free Greece community is this guy, the Layman Seminary. I believe this cat's name is Charles, right? Charles from the Layman Seminary, right? After we had our conversation, I believe I had a conversation. I want to say 2 months ago. Now we had a conversation, and yeah, I think that Charles is the um most respectful free gracer. Right? I think that he's the most respectful free gracer that I've seen on YouTube. Now, that certainly doesn't mean that he's right with what he's teaching, sure, but you can actually have a respectful conversation with that character. It's not going to be, you know, just name calling back and forth like how it would be if you tried to talk to some of these guys like, Jackass, right? Jackass 7-7. Yeah, yeah, that cat, that dude, people call that guy Chart Man, right? The dude has like all these different charts that he believes, right? You have the unicorn chart, you got the Spider Man chart, you got the, oh man, I'm not even gonna say that. Shit, but everywhere you look, the dude got a chart for this, a chart for that. It's like shit, and I thought that Hex was bad. Shout out to anybody that gets that joke, right? I thought that what's his cat? Carnivorous X or something like that. Carnivorous Hex, right? That bumblebee dude. If y'all seen him in the comments, you know what I'm talking about, right? I thought that dude was bad with his charts, but this dude Charles takes the cake. Yeah, Mr. Woodworker. Yeah, shit. I seen that. I checked his channel the other day, like on the second channel I have. I got a notification, and the dude was putting up, well, sorry, I've been offline for a while. I was doing some woodwork, like, say, for instance, look at this treasure chest I just made for my daughter. I was looking at it, it's like, okay, cool, but I mean, I could do the same project with, like, $4 worth of materials from the Dollar Tree. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'll give you an example. Like, recently, I put together a wooden cross with every product from the dollar store, which I have not shown a picture of that. I don't have one on me to show, but it's about, I want to say, about 2 foot tall. And the key feature to it is the beam in the middle. I actually made it removable. So, say for instance, like if I have to move it somewhere or put it in a storage, it's not going to be big and bulky because I can just remove the cross beam in the middle, and then now it can basically like fold up. And it literally cost me like, maybe we'll say $7. We'll say like $7 it cost me, and maybe like 2 hours of work. It's pretty damn cool. I'm gonna have to bring a picture next time to show y'all. I was laughing to myself, like saying, shit, I'm sitting here making this, look all, nice compared to that bullshit that Perry is making. Like, say, for instance, if you watch his live stream, if you look behind him, he got this, like, distorted, you know, um, cross in the background behind him. Right? Like, maybe it's like a satanic cross. I don't know. But if you look at that, mine's 10 times better. Shit, I don't even think that he had the decency to paint his, right? Isn't his just like just regular wood, if I'm not mistaken? I'd have to double check. Yeah, you talking about Charles? This guy said he's consistent and tells you when he changes his mind. I mean, I've only had like one conversation with Charles, so I mean, I can't say a whole lot about the dude. Because it's not like that we've had, like 20 conversations before, you know what I'm saying? We've only had a conversation, like, say, a 2 hour conversation, like one time before, so I can't say a whole lot about the dude, based on our past conversation. But I will say, though, as I said earlier, I think he's the most respectful free gracer that I've ever talked to, at least from my past experience. Bear with me a second. This brother said, Perry's good for a laugh, that's for sure. Yeah, yeah. Hey, damn right about that. Good for a damn laugh. It's like, it's crazy to me. So, you know, what's remarkable to me is that everybody will pretend, like the people on his comment boards, right? They'll pretend that this is like a man of God. But yet, this guy will literally bring his like 4-year-old on live stream to literally curse another guy out, and then give the kid a pat on the back for doing it and a lollipop for doing it. Like, wow, that's pretty pathetic. I mean, Perry is definitely one of the most interesting so-called Christians or preachers on the internet. Like, I mean, seriously, like I haven't seen such buffoonery like that before. Like, say for instance, right? Like, I've been on in the truth for 10 years, and I've been on YouTube for 8 years. And I'll tell you, man, out of my 8 years of being on YouTube and out of my 10 years of watching, all this stuff on the internet, gotta say, like, Perry's like definitely one of the most bizarre preachers or Bible channels on the internet. And I really tell you something, man. Trust me, there's a lot of bizarre and strange things on the internet. But this preacher guy, that definitely takes the cake, right? As being one of the most bizarre and weird things. And free grace is high up on that list too. Like, some say, for instance, like Jackass will tell you, in free grace, you can live like the devil. And as long as you believed in Jesus for a couple seconds, you're saved forever. It's like, okay, it's like, even atheists who read the Bible will tell you it clearly that's not true. And I will tell you something, right? If somebody that doesn't really know anything about the Bible, maybe just read it cover to cover like a chapter book, if even they can acknowledge that that's retarded, then what does that tell you? Here, bear with me a second. Hmm. There's something I want to mention. Um, there was a dude who keeps stopping by my channel over the past, I want to say, maybe 3 weeks. Some of you might have seen this guy in the comment section. His channel name is Holy Spirit Guided Christian, right? That's his name, Holy Spirit Guided Christian, right? And I was laughing because this guy would always be there, giving positive things to say. In fact, when I was sick, this was the only guy who messaged me on there to say, "Oh, hope you get better soon and whatnot." I was like, "Eh, okay, thanks, man." Um, but then he watched a discussion I did with Caden about the polygamy, and he disagreed. I said, okay, cool, cool. You can disagree, but here's some reasons why I'd view differently. Went back and forth on it. And, then the guy was like, oh, I am older, you're younger, so, maybe you just didn't understand it yet. And then I put up Psalms 39:5. It says, for my age is as nothing before the Lord, and every man at his greatest estate is altogether vanity. Right. So I was telling the guy, it doesn't matter how old you are or how young I am. That doesn't affect what the Bible says. Like, say, for instance, like how old you are or how young I am, that doesn't change the fact that the Bible allows polygamy. You know what I'm saying? So I even invited the guy and said, hey, look, man, you know, I'll go live in a couple days. Why don't you click the link and you can come up on stage and we could have a respectful conversation as to why we might see the topic differently. I was even like, hey, look, we don't even have to call it a debate. I mean, we can just call it a conversation, right? Like, you see how we can have conversations on my channel when people come up. Not everything has to be an argument. Sometimes you can just have a friendly back and forth conversation about something you might see differently, right? So I offered to do that. And, the guy's like, well, oh, I don't got time, I'll just, go do what I do and, take care. And, moral of what I'm saying is the guy basically like left now, and unsubscribed and, is not going to come back, which I really don't care, right? That doesn't, hey, look, if you don't like what's being said, then I hope you do unsubscribe. As me and Shreg used to joke about, we said, hey, look, if you don't want to be part of this little circle, you can leave, but don't let the door hit you in the ass on the way out. That's what me and him would always joke and say. Say, hey, look, if that guy is listening, right, Holy Spirit guided Christian, hey, look, man, you know, I don't know what your problem is, right? Like, one day he's your friend, and then the next day, oh, I don't like you anymore. It's like, so your whole perspective of a person just changed overnight because you have like one disagreement. Like, that doesn't seem like a very Christ-like thing to do. You know what I'm saying? It's hilarious. It's hilarious. But that's okay, right? There's no hard feelings involved there. You know, the truth is, man, some people, no matter what you show them, no matter what you offer them, no matter what you tell them or show them, you know, it won't change their mind on some things, right? Some people are just going to remain, gullible and ignorant, right? And, refuse conversations. And hey, if that's how you want to act, then you act that way. But I do find it pathetic, though, because I believe that cat said he was in the 60s, right? So I just find it pathetic that a dude in his 60s would turn down a conversation with a 20-year-old. And then pretend like, oh, well, you not old enough to figure it out yet. It's like, well, the Bible says that Psalms 39:5, for my age is as nothing before the Lord. Every man in his best estate is altogether vanity. So again, it doesn't matter how old or how young you are. That's not what God is looking at. Like, I'll give you an example. Like, if you read Luke, the second chapter, Christ was in the temple, teaching people when he was 12 years old. Or I'll give you another example. In Jeremiah, I want to say 1:5, God told him that before you were even formed in the belly, I ordained thee to be a prophet unto the nations. Right? So God already preordained Jeremiah to be a prophet to the nations before he was even, conceived. Let that sink in for a second. Hey, how you doing, Jay? Hope you're doing well. Never seen this person before. They said, "ETT, did you know that Genesis 2 and and 3, the animals aren't actual animals. It's all the other nations." The animals, are you talking about you talking about the serpent? Or are you talking about like when God created, like, say for instance, like it talked about he created the fish of the seas or the birds of the air? I mean, if you're talking about the serpent, I'm aware that that's talking about a man. I understand that. But if you're talking about like when it says that he made the great whales of the seas and the fishes and the birds, yeah, that's obviously real animals there. So I don't know what one of the two you're referring to. If you're talking about the serpent, I know that's a man there, right? Like say for instance, like it says in the Gospels, to be as wise as a serpent, but as harmless as a dove, right? So the serpent there was not a talking snake. That's fiction. It was actually a man, right? I understand that. But you can clarify down below what you mean. Let me see a second. Gotta put the phone down a second. You know, it's funny because when me and this guy were going back and forth in the comment section about polygamy, the guy was like, "Oh, well, God didn't give Adam more than one wife." Or he'll bring up where it says in the New Testament, let them join together and be one flesh. And I was saying, well, see, well, that's sufficient. I was thinking to myself, if that's the best argument you have, that's very childish, which I think that offended him. But hey, you know, it is what it is. Like, hey, look, if you get offended at just somebody saying something that's not even very impolite in the comment section, then maybe you shouldn't be on the internet. Like, let that sink in for a minute. Like, if you get offended at some of the least, harmful jokes on the internet or sarcasm, then maybe you shouldn't be on the internet. Like, let that sink in for a second. And going back to the point, it's like, yeah, God didn't give Adam more than one wife. Sure, but that doesn't mean that polygamy is not allowed, and that's like the main point. Like, not everybody in the Bible has more than one wife. In fact, Christ didn't even have any wife. So is Christ wrong for not having one wife even? No, of course not. Hell, Paul spoke about that's good for a man to not even marry a woman, right? But he was given his own opinion there, if you read 1 Corinthians 7. Right, but the point is, if a man did have more than one wife, it's not against God's laws and commandments. And that's like the whole point of the conversation. Like, say, for instance, like when me and Neo had the conversation, when we had that debate, that was really the whole point of contention is nobody can show where it's not allowed to have more than one wife in the Bible. Like, that's literally the whole point of contention. They're saying it is not allowed. We're saying it is allowed. The conversation is not about should everybody go out and get like 5 wives. Like, that's not the conversation. The conversation is about, is it allowed? Like, is it a sin to do it? And clearly the answer is no. And it's funny because the guy was like, "Oh, well, Neo won." It's like, well, how the hell did Neo win? Like, even Signs and Wonders Nick was like, "Yeah, yeah, Neo, I don't think you were very prepared for this conversation." Right. So even the host agreed, that I got the uppercut inside joke in that debate. This guy said Christians offend me. Yeah, wait for me a second. Yeah, again, a lot of Christians don't know the Bible, right? Christians don't know the Bible. You know, like, say for instance, right? Like when I'm downtown, sometimes I run into Jehovah Witnesses down there, like they're like in the center square. And sometimes I'll stop and have a conversation with them for like 15, 20 minutes. which usually there's nobody that ever stops by to talk to them. But if you try to record it, you have to like do it secretly so they don't see that you're recording because they don't want to be on camera. Um, but sometimes I just stop and have a chat, without, trying to record the conversation because interested to see what they believe, right? But I find weird though is they're always out there with an iPad, or if you ask them something, they always have to like look it up, right? Like they don't know anything off of the top of the head. Like shit, I could ask them like about John 3:16. They'd even have to look that up to even see what the verse says about that. And I think to myself, it's like, if y'all don't know anything off the top of the head, like why are y'all even out here in the first place? And then second of all, if y'all don't like to have conversations with people, well, then why the hell even come out here anyway? Shit, like I'll even get on GMS for a second, right? They're like, well, we don't do debates, right? Or, if Christians come up with questions, call the cops on them. And I'm laughing to myself. It's like, well, if y'all don't want to have conversations with people, then why the hell even go out on the highways and byways and even stand there and bark at people for 2 hours? You know what I'm saying? Like, I feel like y'all are like roaring lions for Yahushai. So why are y'all like afraid of baby Christians that come up and want to have a conversation? Like, shouldn't you jump at that opportunity? Because it gives you a chance to sharpen your sword, right? By going back and forth with the scriptures. Like you see all these other camps out there, doing it like Sakari, Genesis, Sons of Thunder, um, Zealots, IUIC, so on and so forth. Right? You see all them out here having conversations. So why will y'all turn it down? And again, I give the group credit and respect, certainly, but that doesn't mean I'm just going to sit there and kiss your ass. If you say something wrong, then you're obligated to get corrected. I mean, it's just that simple. So I just find that pathetic and childish. They'll sit there and brag about being number one, but yet they'll tuck their tail between their legs and run away and call Esau if a Christian wants to have a conversation. Like, that's not what Christ would do. And guess what? Since I'm just making that statement, oh, that means that this guy is like, hateful or he's a scoffer. It's like, no, dummy. It's called criticism. Look the word up. It's pathetic how childish some people are out here. He said, Muslims understood there was polygamy in the Bible. Yeah, that's true. Muslims understand that. And one thing that pisses me off, right, is I see in all over YouTube, with Christians, the first thing they'll go after Islam on is they'll say, oh, well, you know, well, Muhammad had a young wife. It's like, yeah, I acknowledge that Muhammad had a young wife, but like, so did people in the Bible, though. So, I mean, if you're going to be fair and consistent with yourself, like, how can you attack Islam about child marriage if that's in the Holy Bible as well, and basically every other culture on earth? So I just find that clear hypocrisy how everybody will attack Islam and that's like the first go-to gotcha point, but yet they don't realize that that's even in the Bible itself. It's remarkable to me, but it shows the ignorance and the hypocrisy. In fact, I'm even planning on doing a video entitled Christians Owe Islam a Apology. And just because I said that, that doesn't now mean I'm a Muslim. It is because I am reasonable and honest. So I think Christians owe Islam a apology. But that'll be a video for another time. Let's see. Deacon Hakah has many wives. Oh, and by the way, that is Priest Hakah. Inside joke. Or that's Priest Hakah to you. Yeah, yeah. Um, both Hakah and Gorilla both have multiple wives, and if I'm not mistaken, I believe even Zazariak has a couple women as well. Right, there's like a couple leaders in the Israelite movement that have multiple wives that they deal with. which again, that's lawful in the Bible. Doesn't mean every man, is set up for that. But if you can do it, then it's not a sin. Like, I'll give you an example. Like, a couple months back, I met a dude that has like 20 million in the bank. That's like elite money right there, especially for my, hood that I come from. With money like that, that man could afford to take care of 10 women if he wanted to with that type of money. So guess what? If he got 10 women, that wouldn't be against the Bible because he can take care of them. And when you read the regulation, like say for instance, like in Exodus 21:10, um, Deuteronomy 21:15, like when you read the restrictions, it just says that you have to be able to take care of them. Like say for instance, you can't diminish your duty of marriage to that woman. You can't diminish her clothing or her food. You have to, keep all of that consistent with all of the women that you have. And if you can do that, then you can have multiple wives. But if you cannot perform those duties, then you shouldn't have multiple wives. It's just that simple. Said there are Jehovah Witnesses where I live. I talk multiple times. They got iPads, and when I got questions, they call for some guy in the shed that comes out of nowhere to answer and try to recruit me. Shit, that brings to mind. I remember I went to a birthday party one time for somebody I knew. They just actually, I don't think it was a birthday party. It was actually a graduation party. It was for a person that I went to elementary school with. And I haven't seen this person for I want to say shit at the time. I believe it was like 12 years since I last seen this person. I'm not sure off the top of the head. This was a couple years back now, when I was 18, and what happened was I was at this celebration, and this guy comes up to me there, and we had a conversation, and he was like, "Oh, ever thought about joining the military? Yeah, yeah, I can give you some information, about the recruiting, and all that stuff, So it was funny, the guy was trying to like give me an opportunity to like be recruited for the U.S. Army, as I'm at a graduation party. And I told the guy, and thanks, I'll look into it. Which obviously, not going to look into it, but I'll just tell the guy that so I can get out of the conversation. Uh, let's see. Said you know me. I'm not sure. The name doesn't ring a bell. Said I'm a full preterist, and I've proven you and your doctrine wrong multiple times. Are you that cat? Are you professing preterist or Elvin? If you're not one of the two cats, then your name doesn't ring a bell. Unless you're one of these guys from the comment section that just puts up comments, then maybe I've seen it before. Oh, okay. Oh, is Gorilla on Instagram? I didn't know that. Yeah, I don't use any of that stuff, So I don't keep up with any of these guys on there. Shit, and I'll guarantee you something as well. I'd bet that those guys were all on TikTok as well, before it got, recently banned, right? I'd be willing to bet money on that. That oh, look at that, look at that. Read that dude like a book. Dude's like, "Oh, you know me?" And then I took a guess, like, "What are you, professing preterist?" It's like, well, dude, how the hell am I supposed to know that you if you change your username? Like, it was funny. I was watching one of Jaren's live streams the other day, and there was a guy who called in, was like, "Yeah, man, like you don't remember me from like 5 years ago?" And then Jaron's like, "Well, dude, I can't remember everybody's name." And then the guy's like, "Oh, well, I changed my name a couple times." And Jaron's like, "Well, how the hell am I supposed to remember that? Like how the hell am I supposed to remember a few thousand people and different names, especially if some of y'all change your name?" Like same thing with LOP, right? Like he'll be like, "Well, dude, why do you keep forgetting that it's me?" And I'm saying, like, dude, you do realize there's like 10 people on here that changed your name like 20 times in 2 weeks, right? Like every damn day that I go online, like Rudy's named something different. So I think I'm having a conversation with an entirely new person because the icon is changed and the name is changed. It's like, I can't know that's you. Like, I don't get that. I don't get how people like expect us content creators to like know everybody's name. It's like it's not that simple, man. Especially how y'all can just change your icons and avatar pictures in like 2 minutes. Oh, that's funny, man. Here, bear with me a second. Here, I'll be right back. Yeah, Isaiah 49:6, if you read it, which I just did, that certainly hasn't happened. Like, say, for instance, it says, "Be my salvation, unto the Gentiles from, the ends of the earth." It's like, okay, well, first of all, you believe that already happened 2,000 years ago. So, like, why are all these ministries still set up teaching around the world if the end already came and Christ already came back and, all of this is done away, right? So, like, why are there literally like, a million different congregations and, groups out there teaching gospels around the world if this is all said and done already? Like, how does that make sense? And can somebody explain that to me? Like, why is there literally in every nation on Earth, which I bet professing preterist doesn't know how many countries are on Earth, but to correct you, there's 195 countries on Earth. So why is it that out of all these 195 countries and every province in there, which we're talking about like in the thousands then, like say for instance, America's one country, but it has 50 different states or provinces in it. I believe Russia has 100, right? Say Brazil has like 20, and so on and so forth. Well, somebody can fact check me on Russia. I'm not, you know, too knowledgeable with what's going on over there since I'm over at the States. But if you look it up, there's like multiple different regions that are in the country. Might not be 100 though, but it's a lot. So again, it's like in every city, in every nation, there's gospels going out. Again, some of them are false, of course, But the point is, all these gospels are still being preached right now. So why would that be happening if we're already in eternity right now? Right? Christ already returned. The everlasting gospel already happened. So why the hell is it being preached right now across the world? I don't get that. Oh, you're saying it disproves the Hebrew Israelite doctrine? Well, how so is that? I'll give you a verse. Like if you read, well, first of all, Gentiles and Israelite can be a Gentile. Like say, for instance, 1 Corinthians 12:2, it says, "For ye were Gentiles." Then if you go back 2 chapters, chapter 10, started from the top, Paul tells them that all of our forefathers, they walked through the midst of the Red Sea with Moses. So, and keep in mind, he said our forefathers, like the people he was writing to. So that shows that the Corinthians, which you'd say are Gentiles, are Israelites. And then another one, Isaiah, or excuse me, was it Acts 2:5? It says, Jews, devout men out of every nation under the heaven. Right, out of every nation. Right, so when he told them to go to the nations and teach, it's to the Israelites that are scattered abroad among those nations. And just a side note, you as a full preterist, you have no business trying to refute Hebrew Israelites, man. I mean, you guys are like the bottom of the barrel. Like, I mean, I'd even be tempted to say that even Perry Green has some sense to him, compared to full preterism. And that's not a shot at this guy, but I'm talking about the whole movement as a whole. Like, say, for instance, um, like there's people out here like Pastor William Bell that has literally been teaching full preterism for 40 plus years. His community or doctrine, whatever you call it, it's called All Things Fulfilled Ministry. Let that sink in. The guy's literally been teaching that shit. Let's see, how long is that? Since like the 80s then? Would that be like the 80s? 40 years? Right? Somebody do the math on that. It's like, damn, that's crazy to believe that. Like basically double my lifetime, that guy's been out there teaching that we're in God's kingdom and the Bible is all fulfilled. And you should just get comfortable with how things are because we're in eternity right now. It's like, wow, the guy's been teaching that for 40 years, 40 plus years. It's crazy to me to think about that. So I was watching this channel called Aaron Ra earlier. He was trying to debunk Jaron. Aaron Ra, is that popular atheist guy? The name sounds familiar. Bear with me a second. Well, the problem with that is people won't know what the hell you're talking about if you use those terms. Like shit, I'll give you an example. Like if I tell people that Jesus' name is not Jesus, they'll look at me like I got 9 heads. It's like, well, y'all don't know that the letter J was invented in the year 1524. Again, people don't know anything about that. So sometimes we have to dumb it down a little bit so that they know what we're talking about. So say for instance, sometimes we'll use the word Jesus when we speak. We know that that's not the name, but so people understand we're talking about the guy from the Bible, we might have to use that. Because if they hear us just using all Hebrew names, they might think we're talking about some type of like, Hindu god or something like that. Because, people don't know the Hebrew. You know what I'm saying? So sometimes we gotta dumb it down, to an elementary level for some people. Who are the tribes of Jacob? Well, obviously, the chapters talk about the 12 tribes of Israel. Like, I mean, I don't think that's I don't know that you I don't think you should really ask that question. I think that's self-explanatory. That that's talking about the 12 tribes of Israel. Yeah, I don't. Yeah, then I don't know who you're talking about. Then that's. Well, actually, I'll get back to you on that. I'll get back to you on that. I'll look it up, and it might be the same individual that I'm talking about. Now that I'm bringing a mental picture into mind, that does actually. Like I'm saying, I don't watch Aaron Raw, right? So I'd have to look a picture of him up again, and then I'll be able to confirm if that's the guy or not. Because it's been quite a while since I've seen some of his stuff, but the name sounds familiar. No, preterism doesn't have any interesting points. That's that's something that an uneducated person would think. There's no good points that they have. Like shit. Like I'll give you an example. Like I was watching a video that a Sakari member did. I want to say maybe a month ago. They brought a full preterist on to have a conversation, and the guy was like, "Well, I believe that everything was fulfilled." It's like, okay, well, like, what about, say, for instance, like Second Peter 3:10 on down, when it talks about the heavens vanishing away with smoke, the elements melting with fervent heat, and the earth being burned up. Like, when the hell did that happen? That's not 70 AD. I mean, the flames from the sacking of Jerusalem didn't reach to the sky. So how the hell did the elements melt with fervent heat from 70 AD? Like seriously, somebody explain that to me. Like, how can you say that happened 2,000 years ago? Like, the closest thing you could have to that, as far as a past event, would be from when America dropped those weapons on Japan in 1945. That's like the only thing somebody could say, but still that would refute preterism, though, because they believe it all happened in 70 AD. So you can't say it happened in the 40s, because that's literally almost 2,000 years after 70 AD. So that still would refute the point. So they can't use that because that's relatively modern time. Like there's literally people alive right now today who lived through that point in history. I don't really keep up with the IUIC, but I have seen them say that. Yes. Well, hey, I'll tell you what, man. Professor and Preterist, one night when I do a open panel stream, I'll invite you to come up here, and then maybe we could have a discussion about that topic. Right? I would be welcome to bring you up, but if you catch the first 5 minutes of the stream, I said I would only be on here roughly an hour, and it's not an open panel. And before you say, "Oh, it's scared," it's like, no, dummy. You can go back and rewind the video and see I say this literally 30 minutes before you even show up. So, don't pull any of that bullshit. Like, again, I don't mind bringing the cat up for a conversation, but it will be on the time that works for both you and for me. Like, say, for instance, I'll give you an example. Like, I'm not sitting in a room next to my computer and heater like you are. I'm sitting out here in the cold. Okay, so, oh, and by the way, I can't even bring up the Bible if I wanted to. I'm going all off of memory. Well, other than, say, for instance, I could go on mute and then click off the app and see the other one, but I can't read it on here at the same time because it will cut my volume off. Happened like 100 times. And it's funny because I guarantee if you were to ask this guy in the comments to explain, like Second Peter 3:10, he'll tell you, well, just apocalyptic language. It's not literal. It's not literal. It's just apocalyptic language. It's like, well, is anything literal then? Like, how do you know 70 AD was literal then? If everything is just like figurative of speech, like that's not reasonable. I mean, hey, like when Christ says he's coming with fire, that's literal. That's not symbolic. That's not figurative. Like, say for instance, like we read Isaiah 66:15, right? It says the Lord will come with fire and with his chariots. Wait, with fire and with his chariots, this guy would be like, oh, that's not literal. But how the hell do we know that's not literal? I mean, if you clearly read the context, it is literal. And it's funny because I don't understand how they could say it's all symbolic and not literal. It's like, wait, but don't you guys believe that 70 AD the city actually physically got sacked and burned? So was that fire literal then? Yeah, yeah, exactly. There you go. But hey, how you doing, Martin Berto? Glad to see you here. Oh, but that's a good point. Exactly what I'm saying. Right, he said elements will melt will burn with fervent heat, as literal as the flood. Yeah, that's a good point. Like, say for instance, right, like I reread Matthew 24 and 25 the other night, and talks about the second death by fire. Right, and then it even quotes back to the first death, which was the great flood that back in Genesis 6 to 9, when the whole world got flooded. Right, that was physical. Right, the whole world physically got flooded by literal water. And there's debate about, was it a regional flood? Was it really the whole world? Which, of course, I would say that it was the entire world. But I've seen people argue it for being like a local flood, but I don't believe that, right? The text clearly talks about it being like a worldwide thing, and there's actual physical evidence, to support that. Like, I believe one place you could look up is something called Canvas Prairie. Canvas Prairie. Look it up. Even Joe Rogan covered this on one of his podcasts. You can look that up, and you might see what I'm referring to. Like, there's large ripples across the land, and they've done math on it. Some of these guys and say that you need water 1,000 foot deep in order to create these ripples that are like 50 feet high in Kansas prairie. Look it up. And also another thing, some of these structures around the world, like these old, stone buildings, like say for instance, like maybe Puma Punku, they could have got knocked over during that great flood. That could explain how the temples are in ruin, because it could have been one that was around before the time, and then the great water, flooded them out and knocked them over. That could be a theory as to why that temple was destroyed. But you can't confirm that, though. But speculation. And somebody might say, well, what about these structures that are still standing, like the pyramids, or, the Roman structures, or Stonehenge? Well, the answer for that is, well, they were created afterwards. So obviously they wouldn't be affected because they were made hundreds of years, if not maybe 1,000 or so years after the flood, right? So the whole point is they were created afterwards, so of course they wouldn't be affected by it. But some that were created beforehand could have got affected by it. Let's see. But yeah, like that's a good question for preterists, right? Like, if the fire, when the Bible talks about the second death being by fire, if that's not literal, well, then you guys believe the flood was literal then. And if you say you do believe it was literal, well, then why would the fire be symbolic then? If the Bible literally compares the end of the world to being like unto the days of Noah, but except it being great flood, it being by fire. So again, if you believe the one is literal, why would the other one not be literal? I don't get that. Yeah, I've seen the movie you're talking about, Alberto. I've seen that. Yeah, it was funny. Like I was watching that discussion on the Sakari channel the other day, and they were asking this guy, like, "Oh, I don't know," right? Like, dude literally was like, "Well, I don't know anything." It's like, okay, so like, why do you request, to come up and have a conversation on live stream if you literally don't even know anything? Like the guy couldn't even quote two Bible verses off the top of the head, but yet he's on there talking about, oh well, I don't think it's reasonable to believe that these things are like future tense. Like the guy was saying, like I don't believe anything in the Bible talks about like the end of times in our days, right? Like the Bible doesn't say anything about our current time that we're in now, because everything in the Bible was like revolving around 70 AD. Which I got a question for y'all though, because how could, say for instance, right? Like, how could the book of Revelation all be fulfilled at 70 AD if most scholars would tell you that it was actually written in 96 AD? And that's how many years after 70 AD? So how could you say everything was fulfilled in 70 AD if most scholars would tell you that it was actually written in 96 AD? And if you read Revelation chapter 1, verse 1, it says that God gave these visions to John to show him things that will soon come to pass. So you can't say they already happened because he said it's soon going to happen. Oh, wait, but it was written after 70 AD according to historians. So how could you say that is talking about 70 AD if it was written after that time? Sure, nobody knows the exact date, but that's what the scholars and the historians will tell you. Like 90 to 96 AD is what they say. You can look that up. Let me just grab a drink real quick. Hey, what's up, Luke? I see you there. It's funny because I was earlier I was looking on the world map and I realized, just how far Australia is. That's like literally, literally thousands of miles away from the United States, like literally on the other side of the world. You know, a lot of people, that's a whole nother thing, right? A lot of people don't realize how big the world actually is. It's funny. Like, I saw one of this guy's videos. What's this dude, David Weiss? And he was like, well, how do people know it? There's 8 billion people on Earth. He's like, oh, I think there might be like 1 billion. I think to myself, it's like, well, there's billions of like bugs and billions of sea creatures on Earth, so why could there not be a couple billion humans on Earth? Like, sure, maybe it's not exactly 8 billion, but it certainly would be reasonable to assume that it's multiple billions, not just like 1 or 2 billion. And governments around the world keep track of populations. So if you round up all the numbers, which to be fair are not exact numbers, they're rough estimates, could be higher, could be lower. But if you add all of it up, it's going to add to roughly 8 billion. and the populations are increasing around the world. Let's see. Pete Bowie. Yeah, that's a cool name. I like that name. But I addressed his comments earlier, so I don't have to go back over them. But yeah, I like that. It's a cool name, man. Let me just look over, make sure I didn't skip anything. I addressed this, but I'll read it again. Said preterism has some interesting points. I looked into it before knowing about it. The 70 AD stuff is convincing, but there are too many underlying unanswered questions that come with preterism. Yeah, again, as I said, I don't think there's any good points that full preterism makes. I think it's a childish belief that simple-minded people can fall for. I mean, I don't see how anybody could logically think that we're living in heaven today and Christ is ruling all nations if literally everything in the world is going to shit. Right? For lack of better terms, the world's going to hell in a handbasket. Right? You might have heard that term used before. But I mean, seriously, like it's not even a joke at this point. I mean, it's crazy what's going on out here. Like, say for instance, right? Like, I know in California, rent is 2,000 a month, but over here in PA, there's two-bedroom apartments here that are $2,000 a month. Like, say for instance, they're just putting one up not far from me, and I checked out what it is there, and it's literally over 2,000, like 200. I mean, 2,200 a month for a two-bedroom studio apartment. I think to myself, like, what the hell? It's like, how the hell can anybody live out here? And that's just one aspect. We could talk about the moral decay of society, the accepted garbage out here. Like, shit, we're at the point now where people are literally on YouTube, literally pastors are on YouTube having debates about, can Jesus coexist with gay marriage? Right? Can you be a rainbow person and still be a follower of Christ? And you heard me right, there's pastors debating this among each other. Not just regular people, like ordained pastors that are out there and debating this among one another. It's like, wow. It's crazy to me. Jeremy on the show to debate preterism. I don't know who Jeremy is. Not talk about Jeranism, because Jeranism doesn't believe in the Bible. That's one thing I'll criticize him on. Again, I give Jeranism credit, but he's also in error on things he says. Like, say for instance, he'll say, "Well, Romans 13, obey the government." It's like, no. If you read verse 4, it tells you it's talking about ministers. So it's not talking about that. Jaron would get cooked on a discussion about the Bible. He doesn't know anything about the Bible, and he would get cremated in a discussion about the Bible. But I think he's a smart man. I think he's intelligent, but the Bible is not his thing. He would get bitch slapped in a debate on that. And I've seen it before. One stupid thing I heard recently regarding the final experiment is there was this pastor, I believe this guy's name is um what is this guy's name? Damn, it'll come back to me. You know what? Let me even look real quick. All right, that's what it is. It was Dean Odell, Dean Odell or Odell, something like that. And I actually seen this guy did a debate maybe a year ago now in like a church with another famous pastor about the flat Earth, and he did a pretty decent job. But now he made a bullshit claim and was like, well, when Jaron and these guys went to Antarctica with the Satanist pastor Will Duffy, Satan actually, listen here, he said Satan actually materialized himself in the sky as the sun to trick them into believing the sun is actually circling. When I first heard that, I laughed my ass off. I was like, there's no way this guy actually said that. But if you go on Jaronism channel, he literally put the clip up from this guy's like church presentation he did. And the dude literally said that, like, oh, well, Satan made himself into the sun and circled their heads to trick them. I mean, wow. That is crazy to me. That's the all new lows that we have to go to. Wow, that's ridiculous. Do I know any knife defense? Yes. I've certainly no expert myself, but I certainly have read multiple survival handbooks and watched hundreds of self-defense videos and stuff like that. I've also been cut by a knife as well, so I know how that feels. Like, I'll give you an example. Like, once I was cutting a pool noodle because I wanted to put it at the feet of the bed because, it was like a pull-out couch and it had those sharp metal feet on it. If you ever hit your foot on that, you know what I'm talking about. So I wanted to cut a pool noodle so that I could tape them on there. So if you hit your foot on it, it wouldn't hurt as bad, right? So I grabbed the Bowie knife that I had, right, like a long fixed blade blade, and I was cutting it, and I didn't realize my thumb was in the way, and the back of the knife cut my thumb, and I needed to get, I want to say 6 or 7 stitches on my thumb to, get it put back together. I'll tell you, when it went through, it really didn't hurt, but you could like feel the skin separate, but it wasn't really painful though. But you could feel it afterwards, but it wasn't as painful as you would think it was. But then again, though, that's only on the hand. But that's my experience with that. He asked, can you teach a child how to use a gun? Yes. And in fact, I would think that's a very good thing to teach children safety, right? Firearm safety. Of course, you need to, get some of these professionals involved, right? If you don't know what you're doing, then, get somebody who does know what they're doing. Like, I'll give you an example. Like, I remember when I was 10 and I wanted to learn fishing, we had an expert come out that worked at the Bass Pro Shop, and he actually came out and taught me, how to fish, everything I needed to know about it, right? So, same with firearms, right? Get a professional to teach them. Like, I'll give an example. Like, I want to say in 4th or 5th grade, there was a kid I knew there, and he showed me a video. His father was one of those, hillbilly dudes. And he actually showed me a video where he went to the shooting range and he's out there shooting his own shotgun that he has at like, 11 years old? It's like, damn, that's pretty cool, man. But again, of course, the safety is needed, right? So if you have one in your home, you want to make sure you keep that, locked up in a safe place. Don't just leave that laying around. Shit, like, I'll give an example. Like, I know a guy who would go to this dude's house and the dude just got a pistol just sitting there on the shelf. It's like, you're not even gonna attempt to like put that on the top of the shelf or something. You're just gonna like, leave it there out in the open. It's like it's not too smart, right? Not the brightest bulb in the box. And by the way, this was that same dude that had that conversation about my facial hair. It was like, well, why you got that facial hair? You look like an Amish person. And this guy's like a Catholic or goes to church like every Sunday. And I was like, hey, look, man, well, I believe in the Bible, we're not allowed to shave our facial hair, right? Leviticus 19, 27. right? And he's like, well, I believe in Jesus too, but you know, I still shave my beard. And I wasn't really going to get into a discussion with that guy. The Bible says a wise man will hold his tongue, right? So it would just be unprofitable to have a conversation with that guy, which I believe he was an Edomite. He's Esau anyway, I perceive. So I'm not going to waste my breath with the guy. Martin Bertha said, I saw a few minutes of Professor Preterist live stream. Live stream? Does that dude even do live streams? Shit, hey, Professor Predators, if you're still watching, man, why'd you never upload that debate that we did like 3 months ago? I know why, because you see that I won that debate, right? That's why you don't want to upload that for your audience to watch, because you got cooked in that debate. I can see through you, man. Right? I can see through you like a Ziploc bag. Right? It's nothing deep to you, man. But anyway, going back to comment, his live stream earlier tonight, his new name is Truth Intellos. Well, Truth Intellos, that sounds like an ice cream parlor or something. Like, I'm not even trying to be mean to the guy, but that sounds like a damn local ice cream parlor. Right? Truth Intellos. It says, and he was saying Adam and Eve hid themselves after eating from the tree. Hid means love themselves. Uh, yeah, that sounds like a whole lot of hoopla. That sounds like a whole lot of hoopla. Inside joke. Shit, this reminds me of some of these cats, like, say, for instance, what they'll do if I bring up, like, Romans 9:13, what they'll do is they'll tell me when it says that God hated Esau, it actually means that he loves him less. I think to myself, like, wait, what? Since when does the word hate just mean to love less? Like, that is, like, such a contradiction. It's remarkable to me that people can believe this bullshit. It's amazing. Oh, when it says he hates, it actually means he just loves them less. It's like, what the hell are you talking about? It's retarded. Damn, that's a lot, man, per week. Shit, I remember living in double wide trailers, and that's the whole rent for the month right there. And I'm talking about like a double wide trailer that had like 2 bedrooms, a nice living room. Yeah, those trailers are really nice. Shit, if I could go back and live in them, I'd do it in a heartbeat today. Right, but right now I'm living in a Rio Brazil style slum, is where I'm living. He said hid themselves mean loved themselves, but Strong's didn't show that. Yeah, that's retarded. That's not what it means. Like, I mean, even when you read the story, it's consistent with them literally hiding themselves. It wouldn't make sense if you just say it means they love themselves. Like, if you read the whole context of the story, it makes total sense that they hid themselves, like, physically. Because then God comes out and asks them where they hid. So, I mean, I don't know how he would explain that. Is that cat's name? Well, little did you know, I have actually had multiple conversations with Jeremy. I believe I had maybe 4 conversations with him, which I'd be open to do another one. I'm not opposed to that. I'm not opposed to bringing him up here on an open panel night and having a discussion. I'd be open to do that, sure. And he's welcome to come up on a live stream that I entitle Open Panel, which is not this one. But I would not be opposed to having a discussion with Professing Preterist. He can be relatively respectful. He said, I agree. Dean Odell was wrong on that. Yeah, that dude. Yeah, that's retarded. Like, the hell you mean Satan became the sun in the sky? Like, that's just, it's crazy. He said Lucifer does mean light bearer, but I never heard of him simulating the sun. But the AC will simulate the sun. Um, when it says, like, say for instance, I know there's a verse that says Satan can transform himself into an angel of light, but that's not the sun. Like an angel of light and the sun in the sky are literally two separate things. In fact, I believe Psalm says it. I believe it's Psalms. I believe it's 84:10, if I'm not mistaken. It says the Lord is the sun and a shield. And some people will use that and say the sun in the sky is actually God himself because it says that the Lord is the sun and the shield. They'll skip over the part where it says the shield. But when it says he's the sun, oh, that's literal. That's literal. It's like, okay, well, when it calls him a shield, is that also literal then? Or is the text clearly metaphoric and symbolic? Like, say, for instance, like when it calls Christ the light of the world, does that literally mean that he's like a light bulb that's been plugged in that's lighting up the entire world? No, the light of the world is clearly a metaphoric abbreviation. Like, I don't think this is very difficult to understand. Oh, that's cool. This guy on here named That You Love Me. Next time I do a live stream that's an open panel, come click the link and hop on here and you can ask me that question yourself. And I'll directly answer that question. And then I'll ask you a question. Thank you very much. Right, right. That's the verse, right? Marvel and no marvel, for Satan himself is transformed into an angel of light. Right, right. But again, that's not the sun, right? Transforming into an angel of light, that's not turning into the physical sun. That's completely two separate things. Let me see. Marvel, like Marvel Comics. Shit, if I'm not mistaken, I believe this cat believes in that Mandela effect stuff. You know, again, my view on it is I don't believe in it. I think a lot of it is just people's mismemory, for lack of better words. Like people might remember things wrong. And, like, say, for instance, people will show like board games or movies looking different than what they were 10 years ago, or book covers being different. And I think to myself, sure, they're different, but could it just be because the company changed the logo over the last decade or two? That's why it might look different, or the name might be spelled different because the company just changed it, right? I think a lot of the cases are just, can easily be solved. Sure, there might be a couple handful that might be more difficult to explain. Sure, I can understand that. I've seen a couple weird ones myself, so I don't know what's going on there, but a lot of them I think can be explained relatively simply. But that's my opinion. Bear with me a second. Yeah, I'm still not over this damn cold that I got. Just a heads up now, I'm only going like 7 more minutes. I'm gonna round it out at an hour and 30 minutes. So if anybody has any last minute question or comment, I would recommend getting that in now within the next 2 or 3 minutes so I can address that. And also I will give the invite out again. Um, Very soon I will do an open panel live stream. So Any of these guys that have questions or smoke, you're welcome to click that link and hop on for a discussion. Put your notification bell on so you get notified when the stream is scheduled and when it goes live. Yeah, I mean, you two can argue back and forth about that, hid or loved, all you want. It's get shit. I'm not gonna get involved in that. Oh, and this is another thing. Like, why are all these guys bickering back and forth about what the Bible means? I thought we shouldn't really care what it means anymore, according to preterism, because the Bible is all null and void now. Because remember, we're in the kingdom. The Bible all came to pass already. So, like, why does it matter? By that logic, why does it matter what Genesis 1 or 2 means by hid? Like, why does that matter if the Bible is just like a history book, right? It's nothing really that concerns today because all of it already happened, according to full preterism, viewpoint of it. Like, why does it matter what it meant by hid? Like, why should that even be a discussion? Because all of it already doesn't matter anymore. By the logic of full preterism. Like, I don't get that. Right? So why, argue about it if it basically means nothing now? Because again, we're already in the kingdom. I'm gonna have to check out some of this guy's live streams. That's gonna be pretty entertaining. I'm gonna have to check some of those out in my free time. Somebody asked, "Do you think it could beat Perry in a fight?" Yeah, man. I mean, hey, look. Somebody would have to call an ambulance because I would make him code blue. I would make that dude code blue on the floor. I mean, look at that pig. The dude can't even do 2 push-ups. Oh man, right, dude. Shit, that dude's heart would give out on him due to all that, drugs he'd been taking with his first swing. Shit, I'd take that dude in the fight any day. You just got to ask him what type of handicaps that he needs. Right, just like with Full Preterist or Jamie's panel, right? You got to ask them what type of handicaps do they need for when, we go on there and have these debates. Like, shit, look, like, say, for instance, if it's a time debate, shit, I can give him 5 minutes and I'll take 3 minutes. I'll give him the upper edge because he's already fighting an uphill battle, right? He's fighting an uphill battle, is what he's doing. Let me see here. There we go. Yeah, that's for that cat, right? He is a damn devil demon, right? Perry is a day damn devil demon, absolute damn devil demon. Yeah, Berto, I think that guy can see that's what you guys are talking about. And as far as the Antichrist question, well, the Bible says there's billions of Antichrists. Like if you read was that 1 John 2:18 and 2:22 says for anybody that doesn't believe on the Son is an antichrist, right? So there's not just like one guy that's the antichrist. The Bible says that anybody that denies the Son is considered an antichrist themselves. Well, hey, I don't know, man. Hey, you ever heard the saying, the bigger they are, the harder they fall? Shit, the bigger they are, the harder they fall. Just remember that. Shit, you know that dude lives close to that tasty cake store. Shit. Y'all saw that stream he did with those two drug mules from the UK that he had on the couch next to him? Shit, I can't believe it. Those two, brain dead zombies actually flew out from the UK to sit in the living room of this whack job. You better believe they didn't go home empty handed, right? He sent them home with a couple goodies. And don't ask them how they got that past security. Shit, there's some drug mules there. Trust me, they didn't visit him for no reason. They did not go home empty handed. That's for damn sure. Now, I wouldn't be surprised if there's some shady business going on in his garage. Notice that he does all his live streams in that, trailer living room, right? Shit, cat doesn't want you to see what's going on in the bedroom. Dude might have a whole farm in there. Inside joke. Shit, I don't mean an animal farm. But remember, that's the guy who doesn't sin, right? That's the real preacher of Jesus right there, right? That sells Dollar General stuff at inflated prices and never sin again underwear and, do whatever you want and sweet baby Jesus. It's like, come on. Now, only a moron would believe that dummy. Yeah, that's a reasonable question. I might end it off with this one. Berto asked, hey, Jeremy, he's talking to Preterist, if Damascus gets, I won't use the word, and leveled, and Trump calls himself God in a new temple that already exists, it's just not assembled yet, then will you still be a Preterist? Yeah, that's a reasonable question. Like, let's give a hypothetical, right? Like, let's say that by the end of the year, NATO is in a hot war with Russia, where there's literally troops being sent and shot down. America involved in the war over there, like literally troops over there fighting from the United States and NATO countries. Would that change your mind about preterism if the world's literally in a third world war? Like, there literally need to be, you know, missiles raining down over your head for you to admit that we're not in God's kingdom? Like, I mean, that's a very reasonable question. Whoa, really? Did he say that? Did that dude actually say that? This cat said, Perry did say he was considering being a rainbow. Hey, look, if he did, it wouldn't be sin for him because he's perfect and does nothing wrong, right? So again, that wouldn't surprise me. Shit, I can't even tell you, man, the amount of people I watched on YouTube that over the past couple of years, or we'll say the past decade, they've changed. Like, literally, there's guys I used to watch. Like, one dude was Nick at Night. He's a Clash Royale YouTuber. And now the dude's a Transformer. Chris from Mr. Beast Team, Transformer. Lego, a channel I used to watch. I forget the name, but now the dude's trans. It's like, what the hell's going on with all these people? Like, everybody's under this spell. But remember, this is the kingdom. This is all the kingdom here. It's like, come on, it's retarded. It makes no damn sense. But again, people just believe garbage. Maybe it just makes them feel good inside. But I don't know. I don't know. Okay. So, I think I'm going to call that the stream there. If anybody made it to the end, put hashtag signs. Hashtag signs. Like the Signs and Wonders channel, just as an inside joke. But anyway, I'm going to end the stream there. Thank everybody for stopping by.